you said a few interesting things here. One is that this idea of how it's like birthing a business, if you will, is like having another kid, right? Like this entity is a place that we as entrepreneurs, we serve it, right? And we have a responsibility to it. And when we're not present with it, it's almost like I use the word neurotic probably inappropriately here, but the parents who, and I remember the first time we got a babysitter, right? And left our child alone, and you're like, oh, should we check? How soon should we check? Should we check in and what's going on, right? Because you're thinking you're on a date, but you're thinking about your kid at home, right? And on a vacation, I think it happens oftentimes with founders, and the fact it's interesting because when a lot of us start a business or we get involved with a business or even acquire a business, part of the reason we do it is because we want we want to help other people, and we want to leave the world a better place, but also we want to create something of value that at some point in time doesn't necessarily need us to operate and drive, right? Like a successful business does not require the person at the helm to be involved. But the challenge is for a lot of small and medium business owners, they didn't build their business that way. And part of the reason they didn't is because they tied some of their significance and some of their ego to that role that they played in the company. And a big part of the work that we do here in my company is that we work with folks and we actually help them become insignificant to their company, and it's through a process of letting go, really letting go, and what for you, like what were some of the things that you found over the last, and folks are listening that don't realize that, we'll bounce in time here, but you chose, and we determined that it was best for you to sell your business, and you did at the end of last year, and so now you're on the other side of the continuum, if you will. So just for folks out there listening in the show, we'll bounce. But one of the things that I'm curious is that in that process, looking back over the last year plus, what were some of the things that you had to wrestle with in regards to let go? Like what is it like? Oh boy, these were some of the things that were if we made some checkbox, right? This is something and you chose to do the work of, and I'll commend you for this. You chose to do the work of, I am going to become more conscious, and I am going to use this as an opportunity to develop myself, become a different version of me through this process of selling my company. And as you did that, I'm curious, what were some of the things that you had to address or overcome to get there?
Yeah, I think some of the things were related to, ego proving myself. Like I was every day trying to prove that for 29 years that I deserved to be the owner of the company. When I went to go work for the company, it wasn't even close to what we ended with. But I think you have this thing hanging over your head, like you're the ownish kid. Clearly, it was just handed to you. And so I think I was fighting some ego things there, pretty heavy, that I had to prove to everybody that I'd earned what I had and I deserved it, or whatever, these deep words, you probably have better words that just haunt you. It's like Every day, well, I better go prove myself today. And so one of the things that you had said to me was basically, let's get rid of proving and let's do improving. And so I stopped trying to think about like how people would view me and how I could just improve I needed to give to them. So I think one of the biggest changes, I became more of a leader, less of a doer. So I wasn't trying to get to the end of the day and have a checklist in the morning of all the stuff I had to get done in the next 8 hours in order to prove that I worked today, because who am I proving that to other than myself? And I really became more, I think, of a counselor, a helper, to say to my employees, like, I'm here for you, and call and check in and see how they're doing. Because I think that emotional state of our company, we have a very, very strong culture. And that was something that I had as I went through my facility, but I needed everybody to have as they went through the facility, and for me to not be there, right? So that had to be carried through. So I think a lot of the things related to me having to get things done to prove to myself that I deserved, or my ego was patted, or whatever the words would be, to make sure that I did something for the business, rather than really looking down on the business and trying to say, hey, listen, these people have their jobs, they're doing their jobs. How can I help them? I no longer need to prove that I belong here, right?
Yeah.
But that also came, Chris, through family stuff too. So I was probably harder on some of my family members than I was on the people at the company. So, I was also struggling with, how do I balance my emotions around my family and what they're doing along with this business? And sometimes it would be, they would intertwine, and it wasn't really the right place. So I think what we unwound is some of the family stuff, how much time I needed to spend with family, how I felt about how my children were doing, good or bad. 4 kids, man, there's something going on every single day that is either good or bad. And that would somehow affect me, during work, or how I viewed things. So I think I got some pretty good separation there between the two, just trying to really be in the moment with my family, enjoy an evening, enjoy not doing work at 9:00 at night while I'm listening to a silly story about something where my mind used to just spin infinitum at basically, what could you be doing right now other than listening to this? So I really separated that out early on, or you helped me to separate those two worlds apart. And then that let me become, I think, a better leader, what I call a grandfather to the business, rather than, the father to the business. So I think you helped me with that. That was a big thing, to separate it and then, carry that into the business of just being there for them.